The game opens with pawn to e4 from Smyslov, and Botvinnik responds with the Sicilian defense, pawn to c5. The battle for the center has begun. Knight to f3 develops a piece while attacking the center. Botvinnik brings out his knight to c6, supporting the center and preparing further development. Pawn to d4. Smyslov strikes at the center immediately. Black captures with pawn takes d4, opening the position and inviting the Sicilian complexities both players know so well. Knight takes d4, recapturing and centralizing. Botvinnik develops knight to f6, attacking the e4 pawn and continuing his development smoothly. Knight to c3 protects the e-pawn. Black plays pawn to d6, solidifying the pawn structure and preparing to develop the light-squared bishop. Bishop to g5. The Richter-Rauzer variation begins. Smyslov pins the knight to the queen, creating immediate pressure on f6. This aggressive system aims to discourage black from castling kingside. Botvinnik responds with pawn to e6, breaking the pin and preparing to develop his dark-squared bishop, though it slightly blocks in the light-squared bishop. Queen to d2, connecting the rooks and preparing to castle queenside for a sharp attacking game. Black plays pawn to a6, the flexible move preventing any knight jumps to b5 and preparing possible queenside expansion. Castles queenside. Smyslov commits to opposite side castling, signaling his intent for a fierce kingside attack while his own king seeks shelter on the queenside. This creates the classic scenario where both sides will race to attack the opponent's king. Botvinnik responds with pawn to h6, forcing white's bishop to make a decision while also preparing a potential kingside expansion with g5. Bishop retreats to e3, maintaining central influence. Black develops bishop to d7, connecting the rooks and preparing to complete development. Pawn to f4. Smyslov builds a strong pawn center and prepares to open lines against black's king. Botvinnik plays rook to c8, activating the rook on the half-open c-file and putting pressure on white's queenside. King to b1, a prophylactic move getting the king off the c-file and away from potential tactics. Black plays pawn to b5, beginning a queenside counterattack against white's king. Bishop to d3. Smyslov aims this powerful piece at h7, increasing the kingside threats. The bishop on d3 is perfectly placed to support an eventual pawn, storm, or piece attack. Black responds with knight to g4, a tactical shot attacking the bishop on e3 and trying to trade off one of white's key attacking pieces while also eyeing the f2 square. Bishop to g1, retreating but keeping the bishop and maintaining tension. Botvinnik plays knight takes d4, exchanging knights and removing one of white's central pieces. Bishop takes d4, recapturing and maintaining a strong bishop in the center. Black plays pawn to e5, striking at the bishop and gaining space. Bishop retreats to g1 again, preserving this important piece. Black plays pawn takes f4, winning white's f-pawn and opening lines toward white's king. Knight to d5, a powerful centralization that places the knight on an outpost square where it cannot easily be driven away. From d5, the knight eyes multiple weak squares in black's position, particularly f6 and b6. Botvinnik responds with knight to e3, a clever tactical blow attacking the queen and forcing white to deal with this advanced knight before continuing the attack. Bishop takes e3, eliminating the annoying knight. Black recaptures with pawn takes e3, creating a passed pawn but also weakening the kingside structure. Queen takes e3, removing the dangerous passed pawn and centralizing the queen. Black plays bishop to e6, developing with tempo by attacking the knight on d5. Queen to a7, an aggressive queen sortie to the 7th rank, invading black's position and threatening multiple pawns. The queen on a7 creates tremendous pressure, though it's somewhat out of play. Botvinnik has no choice but to deal with this threat immediately. Black plays bishop takes d5, eliminating the powerful knight and offering an exchange, but this also opens up the position further for white's pieces. Pawn takes d5, recapturing and creating a strong passed pawn that will become important later. Black develops bishop to e7, finally completing kingside development and preparing to castle. Rook to e1, bringing the last piece into the game and connecting the rooks. Botvinnik plays queen to c7, centralizing the queen and defending key squares. Queen takes a6, grabbing a pawn and maintaining pressure. Black castles kingside, finally getting the king to relative safety, though the position remains tense. Pawn to c3, preparing to support the d5 pawn and restricting black's pieces. Black plays bishop to f6, activating the bishop and eyeing the long diagonal. Bishop takes b5, winning another pawn and keeping black under pressure. Black plays rook to a8, activating the rook and preparing to contest the a-file. Queen to c6, repositioning to a more active square and maintaining the bind. Botvinnik plays queen to b8, retreating to coordinate the defense and prevent further infiltration. Queen to c4, centralizing and eyeing multiple weak points in black's camp. Black brings the rook to c8, doubling on the c-file and creating counterplay. Bishop to c6, a powerful repositioning that transforms the bishop into a monster on the long diagonal. From c6, the bishop controls key central squares and supports the passed d5 pawn while limiting black's piece activity. The bishop and queen coordination becomes deadly. Black responds with rook to a7, trying to activate the rook along the 7th rank and create threats of his own. Queen to b3, maintaining flexibility and continuing to apply pressure across the board. Black plays queen to c7, keeping pieces coordinated and defending critical squares. Rook to e4, a fantastic rook lift that brings the rook to the 4th rank where it can swing to either flank. This maneuver is typical of Smyslov's deep positional understanding. The rook on e4 supports the d5 pawn, restricts black's pieces, and prepares to invade black's position. Botvinnik plays pawn to g6, creating luft for the king and preventing any backrank tactics, though it slightly weakens the king side. Rook to f1, bringing the other rook into play and preparing to double on a critical file. Black plays bishop to e5, activating the bishop and controlling important central squares. Pawn to h3, a quiet move preventing any knight jumps to g4 and preparing a potential kingside expansion. Black plays king to g7, improving the king position and connecting it with the defense. Rook to b4, the rook swings to the queen side preparing to invade. Botvinnik responds with rook to f8, doubling rooks and preparing to contest the file. Pawn to a3, preparing to push the a-pawn further and create a passed pawn on the queen side. Black plays pawn to h5, creating threats on the king side and trying to generate counterplay. King to a2, getting out of potential checks and improving the king's safety. Black plays queen to d8, repositioning the queen to potentially support the king side counterattack. Queen to c2, Smyslov repositions the queen to coordinate with the rooks and prepare the final assault. The queen on c2 supports the queenside pawns while maintaining flexibility to shift to kingside defense if needed. This move shows exceptional positional judgment, preparing the ground for the decisive breakthrough. Black pushes pawn to f5, trying to create kingside threats and open lines against white's king. But at this stage, black's counterplay comes too late. Queen to f2, shifting to support both flanks and preparing to meet black's kingside threats. Black plays rook to f7, doubling rooks on the file and maximizing piece activity. Pawn to a4, the passed pawn begins its march. Smyslov's queenside pawn storm is now unstoppable, and black's pieces are too tied down to stop it. The a-pawn will advance, supported by all of white's pieces, creating a devastating threat. Botvinnik tries pawn to g5, launching a desperate kingside attack. But with white's king safely tucked on a2 and black's king exposed, it's clear who will strike first. Rook to b5. The rook clears the 4th rank and prepares to support the advancing pawn from behind. This is the classic technique in converting an advantage, getting the rook behind the passed pawn. Black tries pawn to g4, desperately pushing forward, but the attack comes without enough support, and white's queenside play is simply faster. Pawn to a5. The passed pawn advances relentlessly. Botvinnik must now deal with the threat of a6, a7, a8, promoting to a queen. Black's kingside attack with pawn to f4 looks dangerous, but it arrives a tempo too late, and white's attack is completely winning. The position is now hopeless for black, as the a-pawn cannot be stopped. Pawn takes g4, white trades pawns, keeping the position under control. Black recaptures pawn takes g4, maintaining some kingside pressure, but it's not enough. Pawn to a6, the killing blow. The passed pawn reaches the 6th rank and cannot be stopped from promoting. Botvinnik has no defense, as any attempt to blockade allows devastating tactics, and trying to create threats against white's king is futile. Faced with the inevitable promotion of white's pawn and complete positional domination, the World Champion Botvinnik resigned. A masterpiece of positional squeeze by Smyslov, methodically transforming a small advantage into a winning passed pawn through patient, precise maneuvering. This game showcased Smyslov's legendary technical skill and his ability to strangle an opponent's counterplay while executing his own plan with machine-like precision.